help it because everything about the weekend, the week building up and everything, is all people are talking about is it going to be this game? Is it going to be this game? You can't help but thinking about it. So I'm quite pleased.
Because that's what I was like, when we went to the press conferences beforehand, that's all everyone talked about. Yeah. And the build-up, and we had to find different ways to be able to deal with, because there was no other story in town.
This is what I'm saying. It's not because I wanted it to be about myself, Charles, but that's all people are talking about. So all your being is about this record.
But it seems like it's taken a while, though, for it to be broken for him. Yeah. I'm glad he didn't do it at Preston away. I think it was one of those ones. I really wanted him to do it at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think it was so special. And, like, you know, I saw that he posted one, not bad for a one-season wonder.
Yeah. Yes, remember that was what I said about him at the start.
And it's unbelievable.
But it is amazing that he still goes back to that because it's one of those things that was proved wrong very quickly. The second,
well, when he
actually not very quickly because he didn't start the second season.
I actually think it's inspired him to score all those goals because everyone's been so disparaging about him, about the way that he maybe isn't as fashionable or A-list, and he's a bit scruffy with the way he plays and stuff. And it's just really he did a coach's voice thing where he talked all about that and you know, going out on loan, as you were saying, and playing against older players and all of the horrible things that can happen. Yeah. But he just uses them all as inspiration.
You know what? I loved it because as a striker, when you come up, and again, it's something that you come into the first division. When you come from the second division at the time to the first division, first thing they say, oh, will he score at this level? Then you score at that level and they say, oh, is he a one-season wonder? That stays with you, and that is why he probably tweeted that, and he's right to do that because those people have all disappeared. They've disappeared.
Should also say 3 of those Premier League goals were scored when he was on loan at Norwich as well. So they're not all Tottenham goals, and he was proving already that he could do it. But Tottenham's breakthrough was really through the Europa League. This time around, though, the only thing that might have been missing for Harry Kane was that Antonio Conte wasn't there to see it. But they spoke in the changing room afterwards.
Antonio. Hello. How you doing, boss? You okay? Yeah. You make me proud. Oh, thank you.
When you're in the 200 club, people bring your phone to you.
Exactly.
You don't need to carry your own phone around. That's how it all works, isn't it? But look, there's a real relationship, a strong relationship between Harry Kane and Antonio Conte, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I think that he's the reason that Kane is still there.
Yes.
Because I think Kane would probably have forced his way out if had Conte not been there. He knows that he's a winner. He knows that what Conte wants to do and how he wants to do it. And I think that...
Nothing to do with City not fronting up another 50 million.
Possibly, but I think that it was easier for Spurs to keep him after that deal wasn't done.
Yeah, I agree. Bringing in a manager that's a serial winner.
And I just got this image of Conte ripping his stitches out yesterday.
Oh, yeah, with the celebration, I know.
But you know, when... listen, I don't know about you two. You both played for managers. You both been strikers. When you have a man who inspires you, it actually pushes you on even further, doesn't it?
I think that's what the best managers do, get the best out of the players individually. And someone like Harry Kane, you know, you can see he's never in the limelight for the wrong reasons. He seems like the perfect example of how to be as a footballer. And I think it's fantastic. And breaking these types of records, I mean, not to bring it back to you, but I remember when you did it with your shirt and you had the vest, and it's an iconic picture. It is, though, and we should celebrate those types of things. But, you know, and he's way up there beating, like, Jimmy Greaves, and now he's got to beat that record. And I have no doubt that he will do that.
Well, he has beat Jimmy Greaves' record, but pedants would point out that Jimmy Greaves also has scored 2 goals in a charity shield, as the Community Shield was in those days, and that possibly Harry Kane needs a couple more goals. But look, this is what the club have set as the record for Harry Kane to achieve, to go past Jimmy Greaves, to be Tottenham's.
Let him have it now.
And chances are, between now and the end of the season, he'll get a couple more goals. So that's going to go past. But what was really lovely was that Jimmy Greaves' son put a message on the big screen at Tottenham, didn't he?
Yeah, I was there yesterday, Danny. It was a lovely message actually, because they did the interview on the pitch. Paul Coit, the announcer, was interviewing Danny, which was great for us journalists because we didn't have to wait for the press conference to get the quotes.
And everybody stayed pretty much, didn't they?
And everybody stayed, and the entire backroom staff stayed on the pitch, as well as all the teammates as well. So it was they were really lovely scenes. But Danny said, look, if anybody, Dad always felt that if anyone was going to break it, he would have been delighted if it was you. And I think because of Kane's journey, I always said that he's an inspiration to British footballers and everyone who plays the game, because he did the hard yards. He came through the lower leagues and came up to the top division. I remember when he started I tweeted about this yesterday and forgot, and it was Sherwood who put him in there and not Pochettino.
Yes.
And people reminded you straight away. You know that.
Away, exactly. but I do remember.
Tim's waistcoat or Tim's jerkin was getting a hell of a beating yesterday.
I think Tim mentions that every time I work with him.
Sitting at home.
But you know, the interesting thing about Kane was that the Soldados cost a lot of money, wasn't scoring goals. Adebayor had a fractious relationship with the club, and all the fans would, every time they kept calling for him to play, he's one of our own, and he'd come on eventually, and he delivered, and he just kept delivering after that. And the reason why I feel sympathy for Kane is that so often, and we've all worked with people who say he's the best in the world, the best. But then as soon as Spurs said, OK, if you want him, City, he's going to cost £160 million, everyone, is he really worth that?
Yeah.
And I saw that as so disrespectful to a guy who had won 3 Premier League titles. Sorry, Golden Boots, rather. You know, so he'd proven his consistency in the most difficult league in the world, plus the World Cup Golden Boot as well. And yet people were doubting his ability. So for him to break that record now, and even if he scores another 2, and you wouldn't bet against him doing it next week anyway against Leicester. It's Leicester, isn't it? So I think that he now, if he were to leave in the summer, I don't think there were many Spurs fans who would begrudge him going.
No, because they've seen him get to that total. And it is, if it's not going to be about trophies just yet, with Tottenham, and that might be what stings Tottenham fans, is the fact that he would have to leave to win trophies, then it is about individual records for Harry Kane. We'll talk about that in just a second. But having got into the 200 club, Alan Shearer tweeted his support for Harry Kane when he said, "Congratulations, passing the great Jimmy Greaves record at Spurs. Wayne Rooney and I were wondering where you've been. Well done on joining the 200 club." So there's only 3 players in there now in that 200 club. And you feel like Alan Shearer's record is something very much that Harry Kane will be targeting, and 2 is very much a possibility for him. The only question now is, having become the top goal scorer at Spurs, is if he then goes on to break the Premier League record, if he does it, at Tottenham or elsewhere. And Spurs fans are going to be throwing things at their telly. He's just broken the record. We've spent the whole day singing he's one of our own, and now you're touting him for a move away.
But I agree with what Darren said. I think it's almost became inevitable last year when there was that talk of him not turning up to training, and then obviously he did that statement to say that was a miscommunication. But for me, I think the fact that Antonio Conte is still there, if Harry Kane was to leave Tottenham, they have no chance of me of winning silver anytime soon. They're still not really anyone amongst it at this moment in time, are they? Yes, they're in 5th, they're in the Champions League, but I don't think the Tottenham fans have been that happy with the way Tottenham have been playing. But a player like Harry Kane, if he's not there, they've got no chance. So for me, I think he's shown great loyalty to the club. And if he does leave, I agree with what Darren said, against him, because he's shown loyalty, he's stayed there, you know, through the good, the bad and the ugly. Champions League fun. I mean, if Tottenham would have won that Champions League, Poch would still be there now. They'd have had that silverware. But things change and things happen. And I think what a player Harry Kane is, you know, and I think a lot more credit needs to be given to him.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens now, because he seems to me like he may have kind of, in his mind, he's at peace with maybe staying at Tottenham. I don't know. There's a lot to be read into the contract talk about, you know, I'm ready to sign for the rest of my career, or is that a call to other people to say, if you're going to come, this is the time to come. But like, I think
that would be the case anyway, because he's 29, isn't he? So
many years to do it.
At the end of this contract, there's not going to be that clamour in the same way.
No, there won't be, and this is why he's at a real crux position in his like career now, because this is either the next deal is either go to just to make trouble, Man United, right? Or you
I know you're saying just to make trouble.
I am trying to make trouble.
It's not trouble, it's talk.
There's also a strong argument that it's the best fit for Harry Kane and the best fit for Manchester United. We'll talk about City in a minute, but there is that, even though Haaland is doing everything he possibly can there to kind of put that story to bed, but there is that thing of whether he is the right fit for Manchester City. You can't even make a case that Harry Kane is not the right fit for Manchester United. It seems like you would just do that.
I would be delighted. I would be so delighted if he came to Manchester United. Leanne, you look at it, just thinking about
how did you see the mere fact that they've taken Weghorst on loan and watched him again the other day? It's that, you know, it's one of that you're looking at, you're thinking, I can't understand how that's going to work. Even with the link-up play and everything, like attacking the box, I'm not seeing it.
No,
there's a place there for, you know, for someone like Harry Kane. You know what I mean? And like, if he's got serious intentions of trying to win something with Man United in the way they're playing now they're coming, because, you know, they're coming. You know, with Harry Kane, that speeds that up.
Would he
That
score
speeds
more
that
at Manchester United than he has at Tottenham?
Yeah.
And obviously not overall,
no,
but I mean...
If he went to
across
Man
the season.
United, if he went to Man United with the players that they'll probably still try and bring in, and that he will definitely score 20 Premier League goals in a season.
He's that missing puzzle piece, but I just don't think Manchester United seems to have got better in recruitment, but they don't seem to get players over the line as quickly as they can. It's almost like Manchester City can. They want a player, Chelsea can. They go and get them. And Man United have spent money. So, Harry Kane, if you're watching, come to Man United.
The pitch starts here. but it works in terms of potentially chasing silverware, because it feels, as Wright said, that Manchester United are getting back to those sort of levels. It also works in terms of Harry Kane trying to chase down a personal record of beating Alan Shearer's number of Premier League goals scored. He's 60 away from that at the moment. And if at Manchester United, I know he said 20, but he's done that at Spurs. He's consistently scored 20-plus goals at Spurs.
Well, exactly. And I think as far as Man United are concerned, listen, last summer, the power was with Tottenham, Spurs, because the contract length meant that he couldn't force his way out. Now, they've tried to sign him to a new deal. He won't sign a new deal. For all the talk, they're no closer to getting him to sign a new deal. So if he gets to summer, there's a year left for him. He then decides where he goes. Otherwise, he allows his contract to run down.
Yeah.
So if he says, I don't want to go this place or that place, I want to go to Manchester United, they have to sell him, regardless of,
they have to do something.
They've got to take that financial hit. And as you say, it works. For England, he plays as the point man. Rashford plays off the left. When you look at what he has behind him in terms of creativity, he's got Bruno Fernandes, he's got Eriksen behind him, he's got Casemiro behind him, so you've got that class.
And they'll probably bring in more.
Oh, yeah,
they'll probably upgrade.
Absolutely. And down the right-hand side, I think Anthony, sometimes he can frustrate, but I think he's got the potential to be a good player for Manchester United as well. So he has ammunition, and it is not all on his shoulders. And that's quite key, because if you look at those goals that he's scored, for example, this season, 16 goals in the Premier League. No other player from Spurs in the top 20. And that shows you how much on his shoulders it has been this season. And it has been in the past as well for him. And that's what makes this achievement so good, because he's handled the pressure of scoring the goals and being the main goal scorer for Tottenham for so many years. And that makes him ideally qualified to go to Manchester United, because he could cope with that pressure. The one thing I would say is that I think Bayern Munich will be in the mix as well. And I know everyone says, oh, well, it's a one-team league. Well, not at the moment. They're second in the league. Union Berlin are top. There's 5 points between the top 5 teams, in the top 6 teams.
But the Premier League got scoring records.
Yeah, I can't see him going to Germany.
And the thing is that as well, when you look at it, Darren, one thing I'd like for him, and I say if it was at Tottenham, I'd love him to end up with a Premier League medal, just like I did with Stevie Gerrard.
I agree.
There's some players you just feel. I don't want Harry Kane in 20, 30 years' time. People saying, yeah, he scored all those goals, but what you got to show for it? Because this will happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is why it's so important for him in this moment to choose carefully what you're going to do. I know we're touting him for United, and people say, "What are you talking about?" The fact is that
I keep it going. I like it.
If he's got serious intentions of trying to win something, I don't believe it's going to happen at Tottenham in this time, or in the time he'll have left.
And the only sadness for Tottenham, the only way they're going to change that is if they provide the expenditure for Conte to be able to bring in higher caliber players. But if you look at all of the players who have left Spurs in search of silverware, Modric, Bale. Bale's won 5 Champions Leagues. Modric, Kyle Walker as well. Time after time, players are in the same position that Kane finds himself now. They leave and they end up with the silverware they've craved. Even Van Persie, when he went from Arsenal to Manchester United, when you're at a club that isn't winning silverware and you say, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere because I know I'd be a good fit, you invariably end up achieving your dreams, and that's why I think
I could equally see him staying at Tottenham, though.
Well,
I mean, one-man
when you
club.
look at the difference, that Kulusevski fully fit,
Ben.
Bentancur fully fit, Romero fully fit for the 80 minutes he was available, 80-odd minutes he was available for in that game. When you see the players that are there in their first choice starting 11 at their peak, there's ammunition there for...
They do.
I don't think they're as bad as they've been playing.
They're not bad.
Their style was quite boring at times, but then I think they've got a good core. You know, Højbjerg yesterday for the assist for Harry Kane's goal. I mean, Harry Kane didn't catch it truly either, but they all count. He hit it into the ground and it goes in. But you've got Son, who's not been that great this season, but they have a decent core. I think they need a new goalkeeper at some point. I know Lloris's contract's coming towards the end.
Arsenal, Manchester United, and Liverpool, the mentality isn't there. It's going to take so much longer for them to get to where they want to be than it would be. I mean, I'm even struck by the speed with which Erik ten Hag has transformed Manchester United. I'll even go a little bit further. I offer you this. I don't think they're out of the title race.
You don't think so?
8 points, 4 months. Really? When you think about the deficit,
City
you heard it here
wobbling
first,
in the way that we have seen so far this season, that wobbling consistently, but the potential for